Hey guys, welcome to my video of taking Jasper on her final ride. I'm going to be going through the Monterey Bay Area, but I hope you enjoy it. It's a very beautiful day out. So I'm actually going to be recording the voiceover audio for this in post, because I thought it was recording while I was writing, but turns out it wasn't. But anyways, here are both of my bikes. Jasper was my first one, and I absolutely love this thing. So it's definitely the bike that I learned how to take corners on, and also just get comfortable with feeling a motor under my legs pretty much. Has a kill switch, just like you see there. And let's go ahead and pull start it. Takes a couple pulls sometimes, but thing always fires up. Taking off the choke, because otherwise it starts running pretty harsh. I absolutely love this thing, so let's go ahead and get out and ride. Like I said, I'm going to be going through Monterey, which it's definitely a roadway that means a lot to me. It's where I've test driven this bike, as well as commuted to on just kind of little recreational riding pretty much. Now, the thing about motorized bikes is that they are fantastic. I absolutely love them. They're very cheap to make, and they're super economical. I mean, Jasper here with the 4-stroke gets about 130 miles per gallon. So again, like I said, I used Jasper to get around town. I used to commute on this thing, and I would also grab groceries that I would chuck onto the back of the bike rack that's on Jasper here. And for people that want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, or even just moped, or just wanting to learn what it's like to have a fair amount of speed underneath you with just two wheels, I think motorized bicycles are a fantastic way to get into that. Not only that, but learning how to work on a motor with these small little Chinese clone motors, it's a very rewarding process, and it's like you learn that even though you will run into problems, you can always fix them. Like, I'm pretty sure if Jasper was to break down, and she has on the side of the road, I know how to fix a fair amount of problems that comes this way. Usually it's like an air leak or something like that, but they're very simple motors. I guess one thing that I can talk about is the legality of these things. Jasper here is California legal. I had to file a Form 230 with the California DMV, and they ended up sending me a identification card, which technically it's not a title, but it kind of acts as the title. I love this horn. Definitely not practical, but it puts a smile on my face. So again, with the legality, I do have a license plate on the back of this thing, and in California, you have to ride on the roadways, and you're basically governed by the same sort of laws as like a moped or a motorcycle, really. You're not supposed to ride in the bicycle lanes, even though apparently it's kind of just ordained for whatever sort of county you're in, like the local laws. as well as if you are, I guess, given the blessing. Look at that law enforcement over there. If you're given the blessing by law enforcement to do such a thing. I've never been stopped on Jasper over the, I think it's about 800 miles that I've ridden on public roadways like here. I think a lot of cops don't really know what to stop me for, if anything. As you can see, I don't really keep up with traffic that well. A lot of cars kind of pass me, especially in these zones where it's like a 40-mile-per-hour zone. I'm kind of limited to just 30 miles per hour on my little bike. When you're on a motorized bicycle, you definitely got to be super careful. I usually give everyone the right of way because I'm like the slowest. I'm the slowest thing on the roadway. But another thing is just like you don't want to get hit by anybody, especially on one of these things. They're so small and no one will see you on these things. They might be able to, especially because you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Some people, they'll see me intentionally because they don't know what exactly I'm riding on, which is funny. But I always act as if no one sees me at all. I think it's a great practice, especially when you're on two wheels of any kind. It doesn't matter if you're riding like a really big Harley or something like that. No one will see you on a motorcycle or a motorized bicycle, on a moped, or anything that's on two wheels. I absolutely love this roadway right here, especially because it's just flat and you can cruise pretty well. It's really rough, especially on Jasper, because she has a very stiff. She has no suspension, so she's very rigid. She has a rigid front fork and a hardtail, so you can't. So there's no dampening whatsoever. You're feeling every single bump in the roadway. Talk more about safety. I think a lot of people kind of skimp out on braking power, especially on these motorized bicycles. I don't know why. It's very unsafe. I decided to go ahead and go with the bike berry adapter to get a front disc brake, which provides me with quite a bit of stopping power. I guess this is one of the pros to like a 4-stroke as well, because like a 4-stroke, since it has the centrifugal clutch, it kind of provides a fair amount of engine braking. Trying to give this guy the right of way, but he won't go. So, well, a slow man taking over, I guess. But yeah, I think that if you build one of these things, you definitely have to invest in some stopping capability. Front disc brake is definitely helpful. It's not that great, especially because it's not. I don't think the front disc brakes that are supplied on bicycles are meant to try to stop a bicycle going 30 miles per hour. I think they're just not big enough to do that. But they do help for sure. And then, I have a rear coaster brake since this is a cruiser bicycle. And those two together provide me with enough stopping power in this kind of traffic, and even in like an emergency situation. Story time, I guess. I remember one time I was on this motorized bicycle. I was on Jasper, and I was going down the boulevard, and this one guy, I knew he was going to pull out. He pulled out in front of me, even though he had a stop sign. He pulled out in front of me, and so I didn't really panic brake. I kind of saw it from a mile away. So I already like preloaded the front brake, and I engaged the coaster brake, but I put too much pressure on the coaster brake and slid the rear tire. I kept the bike upright, which was no problem, but it stood to testimony of like how much braking power I actually had. I hardly ever push the braking capabilities of this thing, especially because like when I'm riding Jasper, I'm as safe as can be. I'm like always paranoid and always super cautious, and always thinking that somebody is going to swipe me in the front. But I was surprised that day by how much braking power was actually in this little thing. You know, the funny thing is that I find that a lot of people will start driving slowly just to take a look and see what the heck I'm on. It is hilarious, for sure, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are just like, what the heck is that thing? And I like to think that maybe it brings a smile to a fair amount of people's faces when they see me on Jasper here. You know, stop signs are always kind of difficult, because just getting going on Jasper is kind of hard. It is a pedal assist at the initial kind of like the initial, go. But once you get going at around maybe 10 miles per hour is when the motor kind of takes over for the whole thing. On these little 4-strokes with the centrifugal clutch, they when they start going, you'll hear a lot of crunching noises, especially at low speeds, and it's just because it's not catching properly, or the wheels aren't spinning fast enough for how fast the revs are in the motor. So you'll hear a lot of crunching, and it's the absolute worst thing ever. I'll demonstrate it, like I said, once I'm coming back from the beach here. Another motorcycle over there. That guy was just kind of having a laugh here because that guy was just. I did the little two finger salute, and that guy just kind of looked at me funny. You know, a question that I get a lot about these little motorized bicycles is just, how reliable is it, really? I've maybe the thing about it, right, is that the 4-strokes, they're pretty reliable. This thing has yet to break down on me. It straight from the factory, it only had like an air leak where the carburetor met the motor block itself. But after fixing that with just a gasket, this thing has been rock solid. So far I've put about 130 miles onto this thing with proper braking, of course. The old two-stroke that I had, it definitely wasn't reliable. That thing would constantly get air leaks, and the biggest thing was it would constantly get crankshaft seal failures, always, no matter what. I tried to seal them properly with like RTV and like gasket makers and stuff like that, but they would always fail, no matter what.
So I would say that the two strokes, like, they break down a fair amount of times, or they'll have problems just constantly. At least the last motor that I had, the last two stroke that I had, would always have that same problem. I had been left on the side of the road, maybe about, I want to say, 2 times on that old two stroke. It wasn't. Of course, like I said before, I was able to fix it and get home safely, albeit riding around with an air leak. But there was never, I never had any sort of catastrophic failure with the two-stroke. I feel like eventually I would have, for sure. They're just not as reliable, and they definitely are something to tinker with. If you're looking for a proper longevity, reliable kind of motor, go with a 4-stroke for sure. I was so happy when I finally went with the 4-stroke, because this thing has just it's been so straightforward. I remember when I first put on the 2-stroke, there was just problems straight from the get-go, and it would never run properly. The performance was good. I was able to hit about 40 miles per hour on that thing. But I think the trade-off just really isn't worth it if you're really serious about having a motorized bicycle for a commute of any kind. For having a blast, having some fun. You get with some friends and you go out and you race around, I guess, or you horse around, then definitely go with, you can have a 2-stroke for cheap and all that sort of stuff. But as for me, where it's like I kind of used it to learn, as well as like to just kind of commute and just kind of have like a better overall experience, I very much prefer the 4-stroke. Sure, you're not going to go as fast as a two-stroke, but in all truth, I would not recommend wanting to go, fast on these small little bicycles. 30 miles per hour on a motorized bicycle is pretty darn scary, for sure. Like, I guess another story time is I can talk about my first accident on one of these motorized bicycles. It was on Jasper. So yes, Jasper is a salvage title. She was involved in a wreck, but the first time I had an accident on Jasper, it was on the 2-stroke setup. The front tire popped while it was on a gravel road. It was one of the back roads, and it slid out from in front of me. So I had my helmet on, and but I didn't have a jacket on. I just had like a dress shirt, and so I got some pretty gnarly road rash, sprained ankle. I did have my gloves on, which was fantastic, because my gloves got shredded to bits. And since I had my helmet, I did hit the ground with my head, but I was perfectly fine. I was super happy that I had everything on. And it was definitely a humility experience. But like I said, going, I was going maybe 20 miles per hour when the accident happened, and even that was pretty gnarly on those back roads. Again, talking more about safety. Even per California law, if you're in California, you must wear a DOT approved helmet while riding one of these things. And I would very much recommend having some heavier stuff. I have my jacket, I have my gloves, I do wear a helmet. Sure, it looks a little bit goofy, I don't care. If the front tire on this thing pops or if the back tire pops, which is very much a possibility, then you want to be protected. Going 20, 30 miles per hour on this thing is no joke, for sure. It's just like a motorcycle. So here we are. We're at the beach, which is fantastic. I absolutely love the beach. This is like my hometown right here. This is where I used to come out here all the time. At night, I would ride through here, and on Jasper, I would ride through here, and it would be nighttime, and it was. There's nothing that I can say that can explain what it was like to just be on two wheels and get going. Like I didn't have enough money to get a motorcycle, but the experience of being on a bicycle, or I guess being on a vehicle, a bike, something that you built at night with my headlight and all, and the wind and the beach right next, like it was pure bliss. And even this right here, this is just absolute pure bliss. It's one of the things I absolutely love about motorized bicycles. It's just that you build these things, and it's just such a blast to ride around. This guy's going kind of slow, even slow for me, which is kind of funny. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this guy once this guy goes over. Look at that. Look at that. This thing is speedy. But I kind of got sidetracked. Talk again about the reliability. Like I said, 4 strokes, definitely the way to go. I've ridden on Jasper on a 4-stroke for like an hour continuously, and I've never had like heating issues at all. As some of you may have noticed, I am moving my arms around in the video here, but that's just because I was kind of talking and thinking that it was being recorded, but it really wasn't. Another topic that I can talk about is now would I recommend motorized bicycles as a means to get into the motorcycle world? Yes, definitely. You get to learn the mechanical know-how, right, of how a motor works, as well as like anything extra. Like I know with Jasper, I had to fabricate the electrical system with the turn signals, the headlight, taillight, and all that. But these things are not fast, and you will not. I don't think you can well, you can hurt yourself quite a bit, but it's not. The power that they deliver is very slow and smooth, and there's no. It's not as dangerous as like a proper motorcycle where you're going 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. On these, on Jasper, I also learned like turning techniques where you have to counter steer as well as lean, because that's how bicycles and motorcycles turn. Okay? Look at that. Fantastic. Just blends right in. Now, I did come out here to take the pictures of Jasper for the ad on Craigslist to sell her. Here's some of the pictures. And we're gonna go ahead and start going back now. I'm having an absolute blast, absolute fantastic time. No worries whatsoever. We're a success. But yeah, I do think that motorized bikes are a beautiful way to get into motorcycles. If you are interested in learning how to ride one, and also in how to take care of one, or to kind of get that sort of courage to tinker on motors. I used to ride around on these back roads at night. Like I said, these things were, or at least on the, not back roads, but I used to ride around on these roads at night, and it was just absolutely peaceful. It was calm. No worries. Some people do wonder about the cost. How to, building these things between materials. I talked about it in my, I talked about it in my last video, about how much it cost, about like the electrical system and all that sort of stuff. But these bikes, these motorized bikes, they do cost a little bit to get into. They're relatively cheap compared to like other vehicles, for sure. Like this hyper frame was, the bicycle itself, it was about $125. Well, the motor was about $200. Which is nice. So it's like you have yourself a little scooter, little moped for about $300. But I've done a fair amount of upgrades. The disc brakes, along with like new wheels and spokes that are a little bit more heavier gauge. All those upgrades took about like $150, $200. I think I've poured about $800 to $900 in terms of like what Jasper is right now. I did spend a lot more when I had the two-stroke. I do think that two-strokes, they are cheaper up front. You can get a two-stroke motor for about $100, and with the hyperframe, that you got a motorized bike for about $200. No problems. $250, no problems. But on the two-stroke, when I was trying to set up performance, get a high compression head, ended up putting a reed valve on there, the exhaust. I think overall it came out to be more than just this stock 4-stroke. This stock 4-stroke, watching out for the sand here, because you do not want to slip on sand on here. But watching out for the 4-stroke, like this is a stroke. This is a bone stock 4-stroke, and it's good enough for where you need to go. The only upgrade that I have on this thing is a 36 tooth sprocket on the back, and it's hitting this kind of speed. Hills are a little bit challenging, but for the sort of area that I live in, it's not too bad. And I don't mind pedaling to get going. But the cost, like I said up front, as it is right now, Jasper is maybe about $800, $900 is how much I've spent. I think one of the things about these motorized bikes that I would caution people who are new to building them or want to get into them is completely sucked into the whole upgrade kind of a mindset. Because on my two-stroke, I was always like, how can I make more power with this thing? I did some port work. Like I said, I got a different head. I got an exhaust. I put in a reed valve, and I loved the pep and get up and go that I got on that thing. And it was fun. Like, you work on this project, and you see the sort of progression that your work leads to. Because I would see, the acceleration was a little bit more faster. The top speed was faster. It was really nice and all that sort of stuff. But you kind of lose sight of what your little vehicle is supposed to be. And I think it's kind of nice because it's like you learn what exactly is the kind of mindset that goes into building vehicles and building motorcycles. Like I know one of the jokes that I say about Jasper is that when I had the two-stroke, it was like a Harley Davidson, but now with the four-stroke, it's a Honda. Here we are on a hill. I'm over here trying to pedal, looking both ways, of course, no ways there. Trying to pedal and finally get the motor going. That hill's not so bad, but there is another hill, but the aquarium, it's just worse than this one. I guess I could talk more about, let's see, I could talk more about, the motorcycle life. I honestly think that I wish, and this is probably like a sentiment that a lot of people say, at least I've heard it before, is that I wish I had gotten into motorcycles, mopeds at an earlier age. Like, I would have loved to have had this thing back when I was in college or even high school. It's kind of sad because motorcycles, as well as like mopeds, things on two wheels, they're kind of a dying culture, or at least they're not as big out there. And maybe it's because of safety concerns and all these new cars coming out, but I think there definitely has been like a huge cultural shift towards what motorcycles are, at least compared to back then. There still is a huge motorcycle scene out there, yes, absolutely. But I feel like the sort of emphasis on having, a nice commute or a minimalist commute on, a very small vehicle, at least here in the United States, it's just not here. You think about other countries, right? Like India, where two-wheeled vehicles are definitely more popular. They're more of a popular option. Same thing for like China. But here in the States, like you gotta have your big car. Now here we go. Now this is the hill I'm talking about. Oh, the crunching. it's pretty bad for sure, especially on these steeper hills. But yeah, I do think that it'd be, I wish, like I said, I had gotten into motorcycles at a younger age. I would have loved to have had this thing. One of the things that I think that is really nice with how things are going now, in like this day and age, since there's a lot of imports now. In the last couple of years, people here in the States, or just anyone, you can order a Chinese bike on Amazon. I think it's great. Very cheap transport. I also think that it's really great to kind of reinforce the whole idea of like working on a vehicle, or at least knowing how to work on one. Because cars today, and like even some motorcycles, but not so much. They come with all these sort of electronics, and it's kind of hard to work on them. They're not as simple as before. And I have a firm belief that, like, for any of the cars that you own, any of the vehicles that you own, you should be able to like fix them and to work on them. If you're stranded on the side of the road, and I don't know, if you don't have like AAA or something like that, it's important to know how to get yourself out of that sort of situation. But yeah, I think that part of like the motorcycle culture, which kind of fades into the motorized bicycle culture, is that you have the ability to work on these things, to fix these things, and they're very simple, and it very much connects you with the thing you have underneath your butt here. It connects you with your iron steed, or I guess in this case my steel steed. It's a fantastic sort of it's a fantastic feeling, really. Let's see, what else can I talk about? I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I've kind of said everything that I can. Just kind of enjoying the ride here. I could. Let's see. If any of you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to put them into the comments here. I don't know who exactly watches my videos or anything, or if anybody watches them, but I definitely love talking to people, and I would love to answer y'all's questions about these little pups here. I've been feeling like getting myself another motorcycle. I do have my Honda Shadow 750, which is absolutely perfect. It goes as fast as I need it to. Like I'm not one of those kind of people that's like you gotta get a bigger bike after getting your first proper bike. I honestly feel very happy on my 750. But there's something about these very slow, small bikes. There's something that is super simple and just such a blast about being on them. I was looking at like the X-Pro 125, which is another good bike. That thing goes about 45 miles per hour, I think. A little bit faster than this thing, for sure. But it does come with an annual registration fee, and you need to have insurance for it. For these motorized bicycles in California, they only have a one-time registration fee. A one-time registration fee, as well as a no insurance needed. You do not need insurance for these little motorized bicycles. So as you can see, I'm getting passed by pretty much everybody. And you will on one of these things. But it's super fun. I think it's like, even when you're just going, 25 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour on a bicycle, it's fantastic. You have such a blast because it's just you in the open wind. Oh, that's one topic that I can talk about too. Let's see, what kind of frame would I recommend? To be honest, I think the frame, if you can get some suspension on a frame, and if you can get disc brakes right off of the bat, that would be fantastic. I know that the F-Zero Dawn, or the F-Zero and the Zeta Dawn, both of those frames have suspension and a disc brake, which is fantastic. It's great. Well, this is pretty much the end of my ride. I just pretty much go back home. So I hope you guys enjoyed this last ride with Jasper. Like I said again, if you have any questions, then go ahead and ask me in the comments. I would very much love to respond to any of them. And I hope you enjoyed the little ride along. To everyone, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.